I, 28F, met James, 36M, 4 months ago at my friend Lisa's birthday party. Lisa had invited a mix of people from different friend groups, and James was there with his colleague Mike, who is Lisa's boyfriend. When we first met, James seemed perfect. He was charming, intelligent, and showed genuine interest in getting to know me. Being 36, he was more mature than guys I'd dated before. He has a stable career as a software engineer at a reputable tech company, owns his house, and seemed to have his life together. For context, I need to explain about my twin sister Sarah. We're identical twins, but growing up, she was always considered the more successful one. She became a nurse, graduated top of her class, and practically everyone in our family adores her. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister dearly. But our parents always made comparisons between us, which affected my self-esteem. When Sarah got straight A's, they'd ask why I got B's. When she became head cheerleader, they wondered why I preferred drama club. Even now, at family gatherings, they bring up her achievements more than mine. Despite this, Sarah and I maintained a close relationship. We tell each other everything and try to meet at least once a week for coffee. She's always been supportive of my career in marketing, even though our parents think it's less prestigious than nursing. She's genuinely a good person, which makes the situation even more complicated. The first 3 months with James were amazing. He would surprise me with lunch at work, remembered small details about things I liked, and always made time for me despite his busy schedule. He never checked out other women when we were together and always made me feel special. I started to think I'd finally found someone who saw me for me, not as Sarah's twin. Things changed when James met Sarah at our monthly family dinner. I noticed small things at first, how his eyes would linger on her a bit too long, how he seemed more animated when talking to her. I brushed it off as him trying to make a good impression on my family. Sarah brought her boyfriend Tom, who she'd been dating for 2 months. Tom's a high school teacher, kind and down-to-earth, but James seemed dismissive of him from the start. Over the next few weeks, James started bringing up Sarah in our conversations more frequently. He'd ask about her work schedule, her hobbies, and what she was like growing up. Again, I tried to rationalize it as him showing interest in my family. But then came the comments about Tom. We were having dinner at his place last week when he suddenly said, "I don't think Tom is right for Sarah." When I asked why, he launched into this long speech about how Sarah deserved someone more ambitious, someone who could match her intelligence and drive. He said things like any man would be lucky to have someone like her and she's wasting her potential with him. The way he spoke about her, it was like he'd been thinking about this a lot. I started paying more attention after that. When we're at family gatherings, his eyes follow her around the room. He positions himself to be near her whenever possible. Last Sunday at our parents' house, Sarah was telling everyone about a difficult case at the hospital, and James was completely engrossed. He asked detailed follow-up questions and complimented her dedication to her patients. When Tom mentioned wanting to take Sarah on a beach vacation, James immediately suggested several exotic locations, talking about them as if he'd already planned the perfect trip. What really set off alarm bells was his reaction to Sarah's new dress at our sister's baby shower last weekend. It was a simple blue sundress, but James couldn't take his eyes off her. Later, he told me I should get the same dress because it would look great on me too. It felt like he was trying to make me more like her. I've noticed he's always online when Sarah posts anything on social media. He likes and sometimes comments on her posts within minutes. When I checked his phone, with his permission, to order food delivery last night, I saw he had saved several of her photos from Facebook. Who does that with their girlfriend's sister? The worst part is that Sarah hasn't noticed anything unusual. She's friendly with James but maintains clear boundaries. Tom seems oblivious too, probably because he's secure in the relationship. I haven't told anyone about my concerns yet. My best friend Rachel would tell me to dump him immediately, but I worry I'm letting my childhood insecurities cloud my judgment. Part of me wonders if I'm seeing things that aren't there. Maybe he's just trying to be friendly with my family? But then I remember how he stares at her, how he criticizes her boyfriend, how he saves her photos, and my stomach turns. Am I crazy for thinking my boyfriend might be attracted to my twin sister? Should I confront him about this? Should I talk to Sarah first? I need objective opinions because I can't tell if I'm overreacting or if this situation is as messed up as it feels. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my original post, and everything has fallen apart. After reading the comments suggesting I talk to James about his behavior, I decided to confront him. What I discovered was far worse than I imagined. I invited him over to my apartment last Friday, thinking a private setting would be better for this conversation. I had planned everything I wanted to say. I started by calmly explaining how his behavior around Sarah made me uncomfortable. I mentioned specific incidents, the constant staring, the comments about Tom, saving her photos, and his excessive interest in her life. His reaction shocked me. Instead of trying to understand my perspective, he became defensive and angry. He accused me of being paranoid and said I was creating problems because of my obvious jealousy towards Sarah. He brought up instances from the past 4 months where I had mentioned feeling overshadowed by her, using my own insecurities against me. But then came the revelation that changed everything. In the middle of our argument, he suddenly said, "You weren't even supposed to be the one I met that night." I didn't understand at first, but as he kept talking, the truth came out. He had matched with Sarah on Tinder 6 months ago, before she met Tom. They had chatted for several weeks, but Sarah stopped responding when she met Tom. James claimed he had no idea we were twins when he met me at Lisa's party. But that was a lie too. Through more questioning, I discovered that Mike, Lisa's boyfriend, had mentioned to James that his girlfriend was friends with Sarah's twin sister. James deliberately engineered the meeting at Lisa's party. He admitted he thought it was fate giving him another chance when he realized I was Sarah's twin. The party meeting wasn't coincidental, he had asked Mike to introduce us. When I confronted him about saving Sarah's photos, his reaction was frightening. He became extremely agitated, pacing around my living room, saying I had no right to question him about what he saved on his private phone, despite him giving me permission to use it. He said things like, "You should be grateful I chose you and you're just as good as she is." The way he compared us made me feel physically ill. The argument escalated when he suggested that I was actually the lucky one in this situation. He said since Sarah was technically his first choice but wasn't available, I should be flattered that he settled for me since we look exactly alike. Those words broke something in me. I told him to leave immediately. As soon as he left, I called Sarah. She was at work but stepped out to talk when she heard how upset I was. I told her everything, about Tinder, about James engineering our meeting, about his obsession. She was horrified. She barely remembered matching with him because they had only exchanged messages for a short time before she met Tom. She felt terrible that he had used me to get close to her. Sarah came over after her shift, and we decided to investigate further. We looked up his dating profile together. What we found was disturbing. His entire dating history showed a clear pattern, all petite brunettes who looked remarkably similar to us. We found at least 15 women who could have been our cousins based on appearance alone. The next day, James started his campaign to win me back. He sent dozens of messages, alternating between apologizing and accusing me of overreacting. He claimed I was twisting everything and that his interest in Sarah was purely friendly. When I didn't respond, he started showing up at my workplace with flowers and gifts. It got so bad that security had to escort him out twice. My parents found out about the breakup through Sarah. Their reaction frustrated me even more. They suggested I was being too harsh and should give James another chance because he seems genuinely sorry and men like him don't come along often. My mom even said maybe I was reading too much into his friendliness towards Sarah. Only Sarah fully understands how violated and used I feel. Sarah has been amazing through all this. She immediately blocked James on all social media platforms and warned Tom about his behavior. She also helped me document everything in case his behavior escalates further. Tom was understandably angry when he learned about the situation and offered to help if James keeps showing up uninvited. I'm struggling to process everything. The past 4 months feel like a lie. Every moment, every conversation with James now has a different meaning. Was he imagining Sarah every time he looked at me? Was he comparing us constantly? The thought makes me sick. I've blocked him everywhere, but I'm afraid this isn't over yet. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the situation has escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Last month, Sarah discovered something deeply unsettling. After blocking James on all her main social media accounts, she started getting follow requests from accounts she didn't recognize. These accounts had generic names and stock photos as profile pictures. She ignored them at first, until one of her coworkers mentioned seeing someone who looked like me lurking around the hospital parking lot where Sarah works. Sarah started investigating these suspicious accounts and found they were all created within days of her blocking James. Each account had saved every single one of her photos, including ones from private hospital events that weren't public. What really scared her was finding comments on photos of her with patients. He had somehow figured out which patients she had treated and tried to contact them, claiming he was doing a satisfaction survey about her care. The hospital administration got involved when one elderly patient's family reported receiving strange messages asking personal questions about Sarah. They had to issue him a formal warning and threaten legal action. Sarah had to explain the whole situation to her supervisors, which was humiliating for her. Tom's experience was even more frightening. He started noticing a familiar car parked outside their apartment building during odd hours. The first few times, he dismissed it as coincidence. Then one night, coming home late from school, he caught James sitting in his car, watching their apartment. When Tom confronted him, James claimed he was there to talk to me about getting back together. This made no sense since I've never lived in that area. Sarah moved there last year. This happened 3 more times before they called the police. They set up security cameras and documented every incident. The footage showed James following Sarah to work multiple times and sitting in his car outside their building for hours. With this evidence, Sarah and Tom were able to get a restraining order against him. The most disturbing revelation came through social media. I had posted about my experience with James as a warning to other women. A woman named Rachel messaged me saying my story sounded familiar. 2 years ago, she and her identical twin sister had a similar experience with James. He had dated Rachel for 6 months while becoming increasingly obsessed with her twin. Their situation ended when he started showing up at the twins' workplace and had to be removed by security. The professional consequences caught up with James too. His erratic behavior extended to my workplace, where he kept trying to get past security to see me. He would wait in the parking lot and follow my co-workers, asking them to pass messages to me. My company had to threaten legal action. When his employers found out about the restraining order and his behavior, they terminated him. Now James emails me from different addresses daily, claiming I've ruined his life. He says I'm the crazy one who couldn't handle his innocent friendship with my sister. He's created elaborate stories about how Sarah led him on and turned her against him out of jealousy. Some of his emails are angry rants, others are bizarre love letters comparing me to Sarah. Each one shows his grip on reality slipping further. What scares me most is how calculated he was from the beginning. Looking back, every move was deliberate, from engineering our first meeting to integrating himself into my family. He spent months planning and executing this sick game. How many other twin sisters has he done this to? How many more will there be? We're all taking extra safety precautions now. Sarah and Tom are looking for a new apartment, and I've temporarily moved in with friends. The police are involved, but they say they can't do much unless he violates the restraining order. All we can do is document everything and stay vigilant. Update 3: 6 months have passed since my original post. While things have improved, the aftermath of James's obsession continues to affect our lives in unexpected ways. James finally stopped trying to contact us after receiving a final warning from the police. His last attempt was particularly disturbing. He tried reaching our parents by pretending to be a distant cousin who was concerned about the family situation. Fortunately, our parents had become much more vigilant and immediately reported him. Sarah and Tom moved to a new apartment in a secure building with 24-hour surveillance. They didn't share their new address with anyone outside immediate family. Tom's school also had to implement new security measures after James was spotted in the parking lot one last time. Sarah switched to working primarily in a different wing of the hospital where visitors need special clearance. The experience changed our family dynamic significantly. My parents, who initially dismissed my concerns, now understand the severity of the situation. They've apologized repeatedly for suggesting I give James another chance. More importantly, they've stopped their lifelong habit of comparing Sarah and me. Seeing how James weaponized their comparisons made them realize the damage it had caused. Sarah and Tom postponed their wedding plans until they felt more secure. Initially, Sarah felt guilty about the whole situation, thinking her existence somehow caused this. We've had long conversations about it, and she's finally stopped blaming herself. If anything, this experience has brought us closer. We now have a deeper understanding of each other's perspectives and insecurities. Rachel, the twin who reached out about her experience with James, has become a close friend. She introduced us to a support group for people who've dealt with stalking. Through the group, we discovered 2 more sets of twins who had encounters with James in different states. We're working with a lawyer to see if there's enough evidence for a broader case against him. I'm still single and honestly prefer it that way right now. The thought of dating makes me anxious, but I'm working through it. My focus is on rebuilding my sense of security, independence. I changed jobs to a company with better security, moved to a new apartment, and adopted a large dog for company and protection. The most valuable lesson from this experience was learning to trust my instincts. Those initial uncomfortable feelings about James's behavior weren't paranoia or jealousy, they were warning signs. I'm grateful I acted on them before things got worse. While I wish none of this had happened, it taught me important lessons about self-worth and boundaries. I'm no longer the person who doubts herself when something feels wrong.